Hello, it's the one, the only, the original, Brian here, live on Gentile Road. This is take 3. I was well on my way with my other video, and then I said something that I wasn't sure I should have said because I'm new at this car buying process. So I deleted it and I'm starting over just to be safe. Anyways, as you know, in the last couple of videos, I've been mentioning my car problems and my gray car that I was driving, and I felt, in my opinion, it was not safe to drive anywhere. There was debate about that if it was safe or if it was not safe. Do I continue to drive it and don't worry about it? You know, and I had thought about that. And I actually thought about, walking back and forth to work and doing all kinds of extreme things. But ultimately, I caved in and just said, this car, can't be driven. I don't feel for me it was safe. The gray car that I was driving, the 2012 Chevy Impala. So I had some choices to make. And I ran scenarios. I checked with family a lot. I certainly went to the family first to see if they had any options for me. And that was like a 2 to 3 week process, maybe a month. But I kept on hitting walls there. My family, they certainly had helped me as best as they could. And they did all that they could to help me. But ultimately, I felt like I needed a solution sooner rather than later. So ultimately, I caved in and I bought a vehicle from a dealer in Houghton, Keweenaw Automotive. And I ended up getting a 2021 Chevy Impala. Or not Chevy Impala, a Chevy Equinox. I got a 2021 Chevy Equinox with 60,000 miles on it, and all-wheel drive, and all-season tires, and some bells and whistles. But I told the dealer at Keweenaw Automotive, I said, I just want to get back and forth to work. That's my goal here, and I want to get back and forth to work safely. So this video really is for people that are like me, that have never bought a car on their own before, because I haven't bought a car on my own ever in I don't say ever, but I haven't bought a car on my own well over 10 years, I bet. At least 10 years. I've been living on my father, who would give me cars in his name, or I would be living on my brothers, who would give me cars in their name, or my father would just get me a car in my name and I would make the payments. But never in my life have I really went on a car lot on my own and bought a vehicle on my own without any help from anybody. But I felt it was the right time for me to do this. And as I said, my family certainly helped me as much as they could, and I appreciated everything they did for me, and I appreciate all the help they tried to give me. But I felt like I kept hitting a wall of okay, there's no answers I could get behind by doing this. So the only option I had to do was to do it on my own, which everybody seems to be good with, and they seem to get behind that option. So I picked that option, okay, I will do this. Not in a mad way or an angry way. I'm like, this car that I'm driving, this gray 2012 Chevy Impala, was just simply not safe. For me, I felt it wasn't safe. So yeah, this video is for people like me who've never bought a car before on their own. And I want you to know, one of the things that I have learned, first and foremost, was when you buy a car from a dealer, I went through Keweenaw Automotive, the car needs to be insured before it leaves the lot. Now, I didn't know that part. So Monday morning, which was June 1st, 10:30 a.m., I get the phone call from, Keweenaw Automotive, and the guy said, yeah, the bank funded you, and he gave me the car number, the monthly price, And of course I was nervous, and I'm like, well, let me think about it. I was just freaking out, saying, oh my God, I can't do this. Oh my God, I can't do this. But he talked to me, and he said, hey, we ran all the numbers, and he said the bank squeezed you in as best they could with this option, and they felt that, and he felt also that it was the best option that I had and may be the only option. So I thought, well, all right, I'll just do it. I said, I'm just going to break through this wall of fear and go for it, which is another thing that I have learned in the last month. Like, you see, and everybody has told me this, but I didn't know it until I experienced it myself, that you put this wall of fear in front of you about big expenses, and you say, well, oh my God, I can't do this. I'm just going to find another option. Until you break through that wall of fear and actually go for it and make that choice that, to me, was the right choice to get a better car to drive, you won't find out that you can actually do it. Because when you sit behind a wall of fear and say, I won't do it, or I can't do it, and you cross your arms and you're stubborn and you're all the things that I was, I mean, you don't really advance very far in life. And I don't know if that sounds right, but realistically, how far would I have gotten on this gray car? Okay? I couldn't walk to work. My family had done all they can to give me as much advice as they could give me, and as much help as they could give me without me going overboard, because I have a tendency to go overboard with things. So I said, I'm just going to go for it and break through this wall of fear. And once I broke through, I found out that I actually could do it, because my mindset changed to I can't do it to I will do it, and here's how I'm going to do it. So, yeah, I've definitely learned that there's a wall of fear that we all put up in front of ourselves when big expenses come up. And you say to yourself, oh, nope, I'm good. I'm never going to do this. And we do, like I've done, silly things that make no sense, like walking to work or driving a terrible car. But until we go through that wall of fear and say, yes, I can, you'll never know that you can. But believe me, you can. And that's one of the other things I've learned, because everybody, including the dealer at Keweenaw Automotive and the insurance company, all said the same thing. They said, Brian, you got this. And those were the words. And I'm like, that's really encouraging. And it made me feel really good and comfortable, because I was nervous as hell, and I think they could tell. I've never done this before on my own. But getting back to the insurance part, as I said, the car needs to be insured before you leave the lot. So 10:30 Monday morning, I get the call, the car's funded. I accept the offer. He's running the paperwork. I'm happy as hell. I'm thinking I'm getting a new car. At noon, I'm walking up by the res stop there, because he was sending someone to pick me up at 1. And I was on ChatGPT there, and I was doing my AI research on insurance. And one of the things that came across was that I needed to have the car insured before it leaves the lot. So I called back and I said, I'm new at this. I didn't know I needed insurance. And the dealer said, well, yes, you need insurance. So he called the insurance company, Reliance Agency there, and they called me back with a quote, which was high. But then they explained to me, well, because I have never had insurance, because my credit score, my credit to debt ratio, all factored into what I was paying for insurance. And at that point, I knew it was too late. The car was already in process of being mine. So I said, all right, let's just do it. We won't worry about it. Then I broke through that second wall of fear of, instead of saying, oh my God, I can't do this, I'm going to call the dealer back and tell him I don't want to do this. I just said, all right, let's go for it. Let's get a car that drives. Let's get insurance in my name. It's time for me to do this. And then the more I did it, the better I felt. And that fear that I had previously was going away. So yes, I've learned two things in the last month. You don't think you can do it until you do it and you break through that wall of fear. The car needs to be insured before it leaves the lot. If you haven't had previous insurance and your credit score is low and your credit to debt ratio is high, your insurance numbers are going to be a little higher than you want at first. But then at the insurance company, they had said, after 6 months, I can renew my insurance and look for a better rate. And they can see if I've had any parking tickets, any accidents, any whatever. If I'm a good driver in 6 months, my insurance rates will actually lower. And another thing I also learned about insurance that I did not know was at least with Reliance. Maybe I won't speak for the other companies. I don't know what the other companies do. But with Reliance, what I learned with that insurance company is that they went through Progressive for me. And it's my understanding that Progressive wanted the first down payment of the insurance. So I had to actually pay the first month of insurance before I left the insurance company. So if you are going to buy a car on your own, first time ever, it has to be insured. And if you never have had insurance, you have to make a down payment to get insured to start the insurance policy. At least that's what I've experienced. If somebody else has experienced anything different that hasn't bought a car before and they're in the process of buying a car, let me know. I'm just relating what my experience was. First time buyer of insurance, first time buyer of a car. The other thing I learned in the last month was if you buy a car person to person, so I'm person A, person B comes to me and says, I have a car for, $8,000, and I buy that car as a personal transaction. One of the things I did not know was that I would be responsible for the taxes on the cost of the car, and I'd be responsible for the plates and the registration at the Secretary of State, or is it the DMV, or wherever you do the plates. So I buy a car for $8,000, for example, and I go down to the DMV, or is it the Secretary of State, and they say, well, you owe, I think the taxes are like 6%. They said, well, you owe 6% of $8,000, plus registration and blah, blah, blah. And I didn't know that part, so I avoided a person-to-person sale because I didn't want to pay the taxes on my own. I didn't have the money, for one thing. Another thing I had learned, too, in the last month is if I had bought a car, say, from a family member, and I believe the way that it was worded, like if I buy from a family member, I would not be responsible for the taxes. Especially like if the car that I bought, or I didn't, well, actually, my brother actually had given me this gray car that I gave back to him just recently. And the gray car was in his name, insurance and plates and everything. So at that point, I didn't owe anything at the Secretary of State, from what I remember, because the car was a person-to-person transaction, but it was a family transaction. So it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I buy a car from a family member, I don't believe I owe the taxes on the plates and the insurance. Or not the insurance, but the plates. So it's a little confusing to me, and if I'm wrong on that part, correct me. But here's my point. I think your best option, in my opinion, is just to go through a dealer. Honestly, I'll tell you why. And I won't speak for other dealers. I'll speak for the one that I went through, this Keweenaw Automotive, that got me the loan. When I got the loan, my loan included my taxes on the value of the car that I would have paid on my own had I bought a person-to-person transaction car. Like, say I'm person A, I buy a car from person B, and I go to the Secretary of State, they would charge me the taxes. But since I bought my car from Keweenaw Automotive, my loan included the taxes, and included my plates, included my registration. And again, it's my understanding that if you buy family to family transactions for a car, I believe the taxes are already included with that. I might have to double check on that, so maybe I should stay away from that part. But I know for sure that what I've learned is if you do get a car loan, see if you can request that loan to include your taxes and your plates. The dealer that I went through, Keweenaw Automotive, included that, and I was very happy because that saved me a lot of money, actually, on my own. I mean, my loan was a little higher, but it included my taxes, it included my plates. You know, had I bought a car from somebody as a personal transaction, say for $8,000, and then I go down to the Secretary of State and I owe another $1,000 in taxes and plates, well, that puts about another $1,000 that I don't have. You know what I'm saying? So I would just say the one thing that I've learned is, like, the next time I get a car after this one's paid off, I'm just going to go through a dealer because they seem to have everything in order that I would not know how to do. So I hope that part makes sense. Other dealers may not include the taxes in your plates. I don't know that. I would say if you go to a car dealer and you walk on the lot and then they ask you what you want, make sure you ask them that your loan includes your taxes for the value of the car. Make sure that the loan includes your plates, your registration, and insurance, so you don't have to go down to the Secretary of State or the DMV and pay those on your own. I guess that part's a little confusing, but correct me if I'm wrong. So where was I? Okay. So, yeah, I mean, my insurance was high, but it's because of my credit score, my credit to debt ratio, my whatevers. And in 6 months, I can just go back and renew my insurance and try to find a better deal once they have an established record of me driving and things like that. So that part went really well. And now I'm so lost on thought right now about everything I went through in the last month. And some dealers may require a down payment. I was fortunate on this one to not have to have a down payment, which increased my payment to the car, but I didn't have a down payment. So I was very fortunate on that. Make sure that you know, too, hello, this is part 2 of the video about what I learned about vehicles. I had to cut the last one off because I got lost in thought. Because I was on and on and on about the taxes and the plates and how to avoid all that issue, you know. But the other thing I learned too in the last month was if you go through the bank, say Credit Union or Superior National, it is my understanding that they are going to want full coverage on your vehicle if you get a loan through them. If you buy your vehicle in full, person to person in cash, you can put PLPD on it, which is cheaper insurance. But PLPD, in my opinion, is not great insurance, because if you spend $8,000 on a vehicle and you put PLPD on it and you wreck your vehicle 2 days later, it's not going to get covered. You know, you put full coverage on it, your options of getting covered are much better. However, your insurance will rise if you get into an accident. So try not to get into an accident, I guess. And then the other thing too is the title. You know, going from person to person may be a cheaper route for you if you have the cash. But ultimately, they have to sign the title over to you at some point. So you really have to ask yourself, you know, do I trust this situation? I go on Facebook Marketplace. I like this car. It looks good. I go check it out. It looks good. Where's the title? You know, you go through a car dealer, from what I have dealt with, they have all the paperwork there, and they have all the things you need, and they answer all your questions, and you can feel safer knowing that the paperwork got done correctly. Whereas you go person to person, sometimes you might not get the best deal, and you think you're trying to save money, and you're trying to save payments and down payments and all the things. But then, as I said, the one thing I learned is if you go person to person, you're responsible for the plates and the registration and the taxes. So say your vehicle is $31,000 as a number, and you pay that in cash, person to person transaction, and you go to get your plates, you got to pay the taxes on that $31,000. You go through a dealer and they get you a loan. It's my understanding that you can request that loan includes your taxes and your plates and your registration. And maybe your payment's a little higher, like mine was. But I didn't want to pay all the taxes if I didn't have to. I just threw it into the loan. So that part was really, really good. I'm going to try to cross the street here if I can. It's a busy area. We're going to wait here for a minute. And it's hot as hell here. Whew. So, yeah, I mean, for me, I decided just to take the plunge. And now that I've done it, I feel better, and I'm glad I'm doing it. And this is going to work out really, really well. And then the next time, once this car's paid off, I can go back and use that car as a trade-in towards my next vehicle. And plus maybe a down payment, but at least my car would have a value, a Blue Book value. Which is the other thing I learned. Say I had bought the car through the bank and they owned the title. You could use that car as an asset based on its Blue Book value to rework another loan, because I have a loan at the credit union, and they had told me that I could get a loan through them, and they would value my car based on its Blue Book value to determine if I could roll my loan that I have there into my car loan, which would increase my payment, of course, and increase my loan, but it can be done. So really what I believe, and you can debate this all you want, I actually believe it's better just to go through a car dealer. You know, they have the paperwork, they have the experience, they have the knowledge, they have the questions you need to answered. They have everything there for you that you need. And they will run scenarios for you to try to get you funded one way or the other through a bank. And you'll know if it's the right deal for you or not. You know, I mean, don't be afraid of a payment. I was too. I was definitely afraid of a car payment and the car insurance. But now that I've done it, I'm not afraid anymore, and I'm feeling much better today than I did last week, and I'm driving a better car because of it. So, let me see if I can wrap this up and make any sense. I might be rambling nonsensically. The things that I learned were, don't be afraid. Don't put up walls and sit behind those walls and say, I'll never do it. Nope, I can't afford it. Break through those walls. You'll find out that you can afford it. Your mindset changes and says, well, now that I'm doing this, I've got to get it done. You'll start to formulate a plan on how to do it. And you're afraid at first, and you're sitting in your pity pot, and I was too, so I'm not blaming anybody. And you're like, nope, I'm going to save every dollar I can. You break through that wall, and you realize it's not as scary as it seems. The whole thing was just a really, really good experience for me. A lot of people are going to offer you vehicles one way or the other. They say, I got this one, I got that one. And it's almost like a carnival of car sales with people. But you got to learn just to say no. You got to learn to say, I got to do my research. I got to find the option that's best for me before I even decide. Because as I've said, if you buy person to person, you're responsible for the taxes on the plates and the registration. With the dealers, they got websites and they have upfront prices, and they run scenarios for you, And like I said, with the dealer I was with, this Keweenaw Automotive, they included the taxes for my plates and my registration and everything in the loan. So I felt really good about that, and you can check with other dealers to see if they do that as well. Because why buy a car for $31,000 off a dealer and then have to pay the taxes on the plates and the registration? I would think most dealers would handle that. It saves you from shelling out that money by yourself. And then if you buy family-to-family vehicles, I believe you don't have to pay the taxes on all that stuff. But double check on that for me and make sure I'm correct on that. Car needs insurance before it leaves the lot. So if you're a first-time car buyer, you never bought a car before, like me, on your own, without any help, the car needs to be insured first. So you find a car that you like, you get that VIN number. There's a VIN number associated with the car. Usually the website's got the VIN number. You call your insurance company, you run a quote, get your insurance, and then call the dealer and say, I've got the insurance. And then the dealer will run scenarios for you on how to fund your car. So that's if you're first time buying. Once you get your insurance, once you get your car, the next time it's not as hard because you can go up to the car lot, look at the car that you want, call for an insurance quote, and then transfer your insurance to that car that you're going to buy. In my scenario, I had no insurance, but I knew I wanted the car that I have now. So I had to call and get the insurance on that car before it left the lot. So if you're a first-time car buyer, I think the question I would have too would be, if the car does get funded first, then you get the insurance, or do you get the insurance first and then call and try to get the car funded? I think the best option would be to call the dealer, have him run scenarios, and if he can say, yes, we can fund you, then you get your insurance on that car, and then you take it off the lot, because he won't let you leave the lot without insurance. So I hope that makes sense. The payments, they can be high at first if you have bad credit, like I do, and a high credit to debt ratio. But you'll find that you can do it once you do it. The insurance is high at first. Once you establish insurance, if you haven't had insurance, like I haven't had insurance for years, because they don't have a record of your driving, and my credit score was low, my credit to debt ratio was low. But after 6 months, then you can just rework everything and get better rates. So I hope that made sense. I hope so. If you can, don't buy a car that's as is without a warranty. I've heard horror stories about this. People buy a car as is, drive off the lot. It needs X amount of work, X amount of dollars. And you go back and you're like, I just paid, X for this car. Now it needs X amount of dollars for fixes. But you have no choice because you bought it as is. If you buy a car, at least with a warranty for a few months, that's a little better. The car that I have has a 3-month warranty and 3,000 miles of 100% maintenance, which I feel really good about, because after 3 months, if something does break, I'll get it fixed. 3 months is a pretty good time. Because if after 3 months the car is still driving great, well, then it's a great car, But after 3 months, if you're having all kinds of maintenance problems, maybe there's another option out there for you. I don't know what that option would be, but I would say never buy a car as is off a dealer lot. That's never a good choice. But most importantly, you got to have a decent credit score. You got to have a decent credit to debt ratio to get better rates and to get banks to work with you, because banks won't work with you if your credit to debt ratio is too high, if you have too much credit out there, if you've applied for too much credit, if your mix of credit is uneven or unbalanced or is just questionable, the banks will not touch you. So Best option is to not have a lot of credit on your books. I mean, I know it's hard to say, or maybe even hard to do, but if you can, pay down your credit debts, pay off your credit cards, your loans, your whatevers. And if you have to go to a bank or to a dealer, and they have to run I believe it's like a soft credit check, they'll see that you have a decent credit score, and then they may do what they call then they may do a second check, which is called a hard credit check, where they follow up further on your credit history to see what your rates are and what you're eligible for. Because a lot of these banks, they do a risk assessment on if they should lend to you or not. And if they feel like you're not a good lender, they may not lend to you, or they may give you terrible rates to offset their risk assessment. Like the rates on my personal loans without collateral were high because they had no collateral to fall back on. So the only thing the banks could do was give me high rates to offset their losses had I not made my payments. But if you have collateral, the banks work better with you and give you better rates. If you bring collateral to the bank, say as a vehicle, and you're trading it in or something, and your credit to debt ratio is low and your credit score is high, your rates will be better. So keep that in mind. As I've said in a couple of my videos, I'm going to rework my debt here in about a month or so. And I'm going to try to wipe out some of my debt one way or the other and get my credit score higher, get my credit to debt ratio lower. So in 6 months, when I go to renew my insurance, I'll get better rates and I'll have a driving record behind me. And when I go to the bank, maybe I'll ask them if I can renew my loan at a better rate for a while. But actually, the loan I signed for was like 16%, but then the bank took the loan, and now it's for some reason that's at 12%. And I'll definitely take the 12% over the 16. So, but everything's done, everything is set up. The loan is funded. It's on the website there. I saw it today, and then I went into the bank and I signed up for the auto pay. So, because I had to initiate the payments. So, I paid my first months of insurance already. My auto pay is set for my car loan. The money, the car got funded. The bank has the loan on the website. Everything's done. The only thing left to do now is I'm gonna get my windshield fixed tomorrow. The windshield was cracked. The Keweenaw Automotive is gonna fix that for free. And then my plates are on the way. The plates are ordered, but essentially right now the car is mine, and I got 84 months of car payments coming up that I thought I could not afford. But as I said, I broke through that wall of fear. I went for it, and the fear just went away. And now my mindset changed from I cannot do this to I will do this, and here's my plan. Trust me, you can do this. And this is exactly what everybody had told me, from the insurance to the dealer. They said, you can do this. I have never had so much encouragement in my life. So thank you, Keweenaw Automotive, and thank you, Reliance Agency, for that encouragement. I'm feeling much better today, and I'm a much safer driver on the road. All right, anybody, if you have any questions, leave them in my comments, my wherevers. Have a great day. Bye.